everybody, and welcome to another Interstellar Modeler as we get started now with the Battlestar Galactica build. So my strategy is now to put the model together in sections, and as I do so I'm going to go ahead and drill the holes for the windows. I have these reference photos that I'm going to use here, and I have my pin vise ready to go. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, well unfortunately I came across a little bit of a glitch here. With the pin vise it was taking forever to get through some of these pieces because they are fairly thick. The plastic is difficult to get through, and so I decided to try something different and use the Dremel. One thing you've got to be careful with the Dremel is that it does spin fairly quickly, so it could melt the plastic, so I decided to put it on its lowest speed, and it seems to be working out okay. So my plan is therefore to just use the Dremel on these thicker pieces and the pin vise on pieces that are thinner. So I'll keep moving along here and keep you apprised of the progress. And just to show you some examples here of the windows on the starboard side. Okay, as I'm putting the middle section together here, I did want to take a second to draw your attention to something. So the struts are comprised of three other pieces. You have a piece that goes on the front side, the back side, and then the underside of each strut. The one I wanted to make mention of here is the middle section, because you'll notice when you put in the underside piece here, it doesn't seem like it's going to fit. So I want to make mention here that you have to kind of apply a little bit of pressure to get that piece in there, and it's going to feel like this is going to break. But just be very careful, it won't break if you just apply a little bit of pressure. You will eventually be able to fit that in there, but it's a little nerve-wracking because I thought for sure that thing was going to snap off. But once you get it in, you then put in the front and back side of this piece here, and you'll definitely need some clamps here to squeeze them together, otherwise you'll end up with some gaps. And again, this is one reason why it's a good idea to have some of these little clamps handy so that you can apply them to these sorts of situations. So there's a famous saying that goes something like, anything worthwhile doing in life is not going to be easy. And I can tell you that applies to fiber optic lighting, at least for me. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this is my first attempt at working with fiber optics, and it has been quite a challenge. Let me just tell you why. My strategy was to initially just thread the bundles through with each section here, and then group them together in a bundle and place them down to where the LED was going to be. But as I went along, I found that they were just going everywhere. I would find it difficult to secure, or at least to I threaded them through, and then it was just really difficult to kind of keep a handle on them because they would either slide out, or when I finally did get them grouped together, it was really tough to kind of bundle them together that way and get them to be even at the end. So I grew frustrated, and I decided to pull them all out again. And what I did the second time was to go in sections. So step by step, this is what I did. Step number one was I determined where the LED was going to be. Step number two is I measured out how long a fiber optic I needed to get from point A to point B, depending on the section I was going from. And then step three was to bundle the wires through that particular section. And then step four was to secure it. So what I did was I would thread this section through, and then I used blue tape like I did here to temporarily hold them down. So I bundled them together so they were nice and even at one end, taped them down, and then what I did was I applied white glue to the edges here so that the fiber optics wouldn't move when I was ready to finally secure them. Okay, so those were the steps I went through. When I did finally secure them, I would use, I lifted up the blue tape, and in place of that I would use the duct tape that you see here, and then I further secured them by using white glue at each of these sections here. And then I would let each bundle dry. And that's kind of how it went, from one section to the next section to the next section. I went through those steps, and I ended up with all the bundles that you see here. So it was rather challenging to do all this, and I can tell you this is kind of quickly evolving into becoming not my method for lighting a model. With this particular model, however, the scale is such that it would be difficult to do it otherwise. I have seen other videos online, or at least one other one I should say, where they lit the model without using fiber optics, and I think it came out great. But it was too late in the process here for me to switch to anything else. and so I am moving forward with the fiber optics lighting. So the next step now will be I'm going to feed some more fiber optics through these end sections here and the lighting that goes in each of these sections here, but rather than trying to bend them around to feed into these LEDs here, which have quite a few bundled now, I'm going to feed them into one other LED, which I'm going to place here. And I should mention that the lighting from the bridge is going to be fed straight through here to the same LED. And also I hope to get some lighting on the bottom section here to feed through to the same LED as well. So wish me luck, and we'll keep trudging along here, and we'll see how it turns out. Alright, and here we have the lower half of the forward section. You can see some fiber optics have been wired through here. There's just 4 on each side here, so not very many for this bottom half. The fiber optics will then group together and feed into this LED here. And I think what I'll do before I apply the bridge section is to just paint the hull color and then feed the fiber optics from the bridge and again lead them to this LED here. I'm going to take a second just to go over the center section of the ship, because this has been wired up now, and you can see it looks like one big fat mess, doesn't it? But there is some organization here, believe it or not, so let me just kind of show you what I've done here. My initial intention was to use 2 LEDs for the center section, but there's really not a lot of room to work with here. And you have several challenges with this particular part here, because you have to place fiber optics from one end to the other, and really doesn't matter where you place your LEDs, it's still going to be a challenge to get those fiber optics to face the LED properly, depending on the section of the ship you're talking about here. So let me just show you what I mean. So I decided to put the LED here. If you go from this section on backwards, you can see that at first it's very easy to just wire in the fiber optics here, but as you get towards the rear of the ship, you now have a situation where you have to take the fiber optics and wire them through and somehow curve them around so they can come around this way and still face the LED. So let me just show you a diagram so you can make heads or tails of this mess here. So this is a simplified diagram. There are obviously more fiber optics cables involved, but you'll get the idea here. So again, these are the wires here that easily will face the LED, but as we move closer towards the rear of the ship, you now have to get the fiber optics to curve around, and that was the thing I did at the beginning, was to try to curve them in, and they just wouldn't hold place very well. So I decided to use heat to bend the fiber optics into these 90-degree angles, and that's something that you can do without losing transmissibility of the fiber optics cable. You just have to make sure you bend it properly and not distort it, and the light will transmit properly. So basically what I did was I used a candle and held the fiber optics at a certain distance, and I was able to soften up the fiber optics enough to be able to create this bend. Now there's a gentleman on YouTube who does a great tutorial on how to do this, so rather than me showing you, I'm just going to provide you the link to his video, and you can watch that presentation, because he has other hints on working with fiber optics that I think you'll find helpful as well. So going back to our section here, that's basically what we see here. We see the fiber optics coming through here and being fed down the hull and turned into the LED, as you see there. Now I had to use, you see a bunch of duct tape here, and that's simply because as I went from one section to the other, you just had a layer of fiber optics, and with each layer I had to secure them into place, and that's why you see strips of duct tape here. So I use white glue along with the duct tape to secure the lines, and just be aware that white glue or canopy glue is recommended with these types of things, because you do not want to use cyanoacrylate, because that will mess up and make the fiber optics brittle. So I'll tell you what, let me just take a second to turn off the lights here, and I'll show you what it looks like when all the fiber optics are lit by the LED. Alright, so you can see how the LEDs are lighting up pretty nicely here, all the way from the front to the back. The light is being emitted properly. And so the next step will be then to paint the model and then clip them close to the hull. Let me just show you what I bought to do that. So these are some scissors that I got at Target for about $6. These are actually cuticle scissors, and they come with a curved end here. and that should allow me to get into these little nooks and crannies here to be able to snip these fiber optics off. Because that was going to be one challenge, is getting in between these tight spaces here and not leaving the fiber optics end sticking out. So hopefully it'll do a pretty decent job. I've already clipped some fiber optics with it, and it does a great job at snipping them clean. So that's what I plan to use for that. Now I do want to take a quick second to talk about light blocking. This guy named Steve Neal, he does videos on YouTube and does some excellent builds, and I think his YouTube channel is SNG. Anyway, he recommends using this Duplicolor Perfect Match for light blocking, and I can't say enough good things about it. It does an excellent job to light block, especially with these bright LEDs sitting right up against the hull. They can easily glow through the hull unless you light block properly, and this does a really good job at doing that. So get yourself some of this stuff if you're lighting models and needing something to light block. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and conclude the video here, because the next thing to do would be to light the engines and the landing bays, and I plan to do that with just regular LEDs, so I will show you that in the next one. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me as usual, and thank you very much for watching. I will catch you in the next video. Again, just bear with me, this has been a slow process, so the build is going along a little slowly here, but we will definitely get it done. Alright, I will see you then in the next one. Take care.